Yeah, it started.
All right. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our third quarter 2016 DASH conference call. My name's Ryan Taylor. I'm Director of Finance at DASH, and I'll be the primary moderator for today's call. The call is being recorded and will be distributed on DASH YouTube channel later today. I'm joined on the call by several key members of the DASH core team. Evan Duffield, the founder of DASH and the lead developer for the project. Daniel Diaz, head of business development. Philip Engelhorn, who leads our international outreach program. And Robert Vico, our lead project manager. We intend to begin hosting quarterly calls similar to this one with several purposes in mind. First, we feel the format may be an effective means of communicating to investors and users to keep them updated on the progress of the project, its current status, and our plans for the future. And second, we wanted to provide the community of users and investors an opportunity to have their questions answered. Since this is our first quarterly call, we certainly would encourage you to share your feedback and suggestions after the call, and we certainly hope that you find it to be useful and informative. Before we begin, let me share some additional information about the call format. To avoid background noise, all listeners will be on mute for the duration of the call. We'll first share a set of prepared remarks and accompanying slides, followed by a question and answer session. Questions should be submitted in the chat window. And other than the time limit of the call, we won't be restricting the number of questions, but we would like to ask everyone to allow the opportunity for others to ask questions. So we will be prioritizing questions from other participants if it becomes necessary. If you know your question requires a follow-up, please try to group them together. For example, do you plan to do X and when can we expect that? That'll help ensure that your questions are fully answered. Oh. All right, so looking at today's agenda, we'll start with an update from Evan on the software development, including the development and testing of 12.1 and evolution. Next, Daniel will provide an update on our ongoing business development efforts and our plans to begin accelerating our progress there. Philip will share some of the great work being done to promote DASH, particularly through the ongoing international outreach program. Robert will walk us through some of the improvements we've made to organize our efforts and plans going forward to continue improving and scaling our execution capacity. And lastly, I'll be sharing details on the core team's financials, including details on our proposal income, expenses, currency gains, as well as detailed balance sheet as of quarter end. I'll also walk you through some key performance indicators that help illustrate the growth and maturity of the network itself. As you'll see over the course of the call, DASH is doing incredibly well. The progress we've made would simply not be possible without the countless volunteers driving the project. I say volunteers because literally every contributor at DASH has worked passionately on the project, despite not one person receiving the kind of compensation their talents could receive elsewhere. Our core team, investors, community members, and users deeply believe in the potential of DASH, and I couldn't be more honored to be working alongside such a talented, driven, and self-sacrificing team of people. As you may recall, these 4 areas were the priority project development areas for 2016 that we outlined back in January. We continue to structure the team and our activities to deliver against these priorities. Updates on today's call will follow this structure. As you can see, the development team expanded significantly during the quarter. Thanks to the expanded development funding proposals, we onboarded 6 new members to the development team, including 2 full-time resources. we now have a total of 4 full-time developers working on Dashcore, Sentinel, and Evolution, which has already begun accelerating the work. We're also lucky to have a talented team of developers and technical resources dedicated to other areas of the project, including support for other wallets, integration efforts, QA, testing, and infrastructure. And finally, we benefit greatly from having a well-rounded team of contributors from other functional areas. One of the very recent changes. I just lost my headset, so I'll keep going. Hopefully you can hear me just as well. One of the very recent changes you'll see here is that we've added new part-time PMs to help manage the increasing volume of activity in the project. I'll now turn the call over to Evan to provide an update on our software development efforts. Evan.
Software development in Q3 has went through some radical changes. We went from a very small team of driven volunteers working on 12.1 to a much more professional, sophisticated operation where we've used something similar to contractors, which we've hired a few full-time people, and we have begun utilizing them and have moved the work over to those teams. The team on the left of the slide is the full team of Evolution and of Dash-D. So Eugene is the main developer of Dash-D. Andy Freer is our Evolution team lead. Holger Snischel is the quality assurance person for the project. And then I don't think I should probably go through everyone, but we have a very amazing team that we've managed to figure out what each person is individually good at and then have put them on task for this. For 12.1, what we're working on is something called Sentinel, and we are currently in the process of reconstructing it to be able to replace the Superblock system in 12.0. This is going to be the foundation of the Evolution structure, and it was one simple functional improvement over the 12.0 that is built on this completely new framework. Included also, we have the core wallets that have been being worked on for a little while now, and these will include integration with hardware wallets like Trezor and KeepKey, along with making the HTML wallets for the Evolution front end. So we're working on many simultaneous projects for the foundation of Evolution, which is 12.1, and we've used the resources that we have to do this in a much more efficient and accelerated manner. The next thing that we're working on is iOS wallet acceptance by working with Apple, and we're working on better communication structures. Some of these will be present in 12.1, and some will come soon after that to improve the overall communication of the project. And all of this is moving toward a higher level of decentralization for the project, not being exclusively tied where one person is absolutely needed within the project. At this point, we're pivoting away from that into a much more professional, organized manner. And soon after this, we'll begin many new projects based off of the foundation of 12.1. 12.1 was so much larger than we had originally intended because we want to be able to do development on DAPI, Dash Drive, Sentinel, our DAO administration, and all of this at exactly the same time. And so that is what's coming next. We're going to start all of those projects at once. And we have Dash Drive planning going on currently. We have some models of the network running, and we're determining how best to allocate resources on Dash Drive and how best to implement it, along with the final specification, or I guess the first real draft of specification for DAPI and how the APIs will work over money as a service and for adding user accounts and modifying them, and then doing payment channels and things like that. Normal features that everyone will expect out of Evolution. That's all I have for the status update.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Evan. And next we'll cover business development. Daniel, do you want to go ahead?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today. The first thing is to explain a little bit on the work that we're doing on the team with regards to business development. And I think it's important to start from the team. In reality, we are in startup mode, and that means that everyone in the team is wearing different hats. Although we do have like a main role, we also play a supporting role for other members of the team. So in the business development team, all of us three, myself, Robert, and Ryan, work closely together on the different opportunities. It may not be something that everyone is aware of, but we do work, the three of us are full-time and work on a daily basis together, and also other members of the development section of the team are full-time. And we communicate several times a day and meet several times a week in meetings similar to this one to discuss projects and opportunities. So that's the first part that's important. So it's not only us, but an extended team of active volunteers that help us in trying to promote adoption of the Dash network. For this year, we set out some goals that I think are big goals, and we've been making progress towards them, mostly related to improving gateways of access into the network, either in or out. And what we discovered as we've been working on this is that at the early stage our network was on, the main thing we needed to focus on was backend and B2B tools that we needed to have ready so that more businesses can onboard Dash. And that has been a lot of our focus during this year. For example, we created our own payment processing tool that is being implemented with ProtonMail as a pilot client. And this was developed internally, a special thanks to Andy and Snoxel for helping in the development of this tool. So that's one of the things that we've been doing, but we've been creating hot wallets, broker software, like I said, payment processing tools. We've been updating libraries for Dash, like the Dash Core library, Insight, and all of these other libraries and tools that already exist for Bitcoin and that partners expected from us as they started onboarding, right? So with this, we have had a first wave of businesses that are early adopters into the network, including companies like ProtonMail, hardware wallet businesses like KeepKey, Satoshi Labs. We work with Jax, Tiga CTM, CoinFirm, CryptoBuyer. So all of these businesses were or are early adopters. And as we agreed with them to integrate into the network, there's been a lot of work that needed to be done that wasn't there already. Mainly libraries and tools, multi-sig, on different things that already existed for Bitcoin that were a need in our network. And this has served the purpose or this year we have been creating all of this infrastructure that we feel we're going to be able to take advantage several times over the coming months. because it's all open source software that we're going to be able to use with future partners to come. So in areas that we feel we can improve is that there lacks a formal process for integration. We don't yet have a dedicated integrations team. Right now, what we do is, as we have a new opportunity, we go to our existing development teams, either the evolution team or the core development team, and we look for the resource within those people that has the abilities that we need for a particular opportunity. What we want to do going forward is we want to create a separate dedicated team whose role is just to help onboard partners and new businesses into the network. And that's something that we want to create, and we've been working on the structure for the coming months. The other thing that we want to implement is a more formal contracting process. As the project scales, the amount of due diligence and the amount of contracting, let's say, safety procedures that we need to put in place grows. So we feel that we've done well so far by utilizing the budget system and contracting with people in a more or less informal basis, right? But now we're going into larger investments. For example, one of the things we've done recently is work with Wall of Coins. In the background, we're always meeting with people. We're always reaching out. There were several meetings to try to come up with terms that were agreeable for the network. We're very happy with the results, and now we have an official proposal already posted to the network to make that integration happen. And this is the role the team is going to play as we scale. We're not going to be able to drive directly all of the business development projects. The budget system is designed to be decentralized, and it's also designed to decentralize as time goes by. So as the project scales and the market cap goes up and we have a larger network, we're going to have more and more projects that are organic and come independently without, let's say, being driven from the start by the team. So the role we want to play for those projects is a support role, similar to the role we played, for example, with SpectroCoin. They did their own proposal, but in the end, they needed our help to answer questions, provide the appropriate Java libraries that were needed. So we involved our developer, Tomasz Ludek, to help with that, and he helped in that process. So it's important for us as we scale to have kind of like a support team that's ready to help any innovator in a network or any business that organically and independently wants to integrate Dash, as they always need a place to go to where they know they're going to get answers and they know there's people ready to help. So over a longer term, we see a project where we're going to have a lot of independent teams or independent projects come online as part of the budget system, and the core team playing more of a role of stewardship and support to, on the one hand, try to get terms that are agreeable for the network, negotiate on behalf of the network, and try to get proposals online that are acceptable. And on the other hand, to play a support role so that people know there's a place where they can always go to, where there's dedicated people trying to help them. So that takes us to our next steps, right? Our goals for the immediate future are to establish a formal team. Like we said, we feel we need kind of like a dedicated integrations team and a dedicated sales team to grow out of this more active volunteer phase into a little bit more structured phase where we're going to be doing some outreach and sales work on a regular basis with a team of people, and also have a team of people dedicated to onboarding those new businesses in conjunction with the project management team that Robert will be talking about in a little bit. So right now, what we're doing is we're establishing the workflow processes in paper. We believe we need to have a very well-defined processes for this. So we're working on it at the moment. And we're starting to work with some of the more active volunteers One of them, Matthew, out of New Zealand, has been great in helping us. And he, for example, introduced Jake to the project originally, to Perry Wooden, and then we took over and helped that bring that home. So we want to see more of this. We just want to structure it a little bit better. The other role that's very important that we've been playing is that we also are going to be given some promotion and PR support for the partners that join the Dash network. So far, we coordinate press releases in conjunction with new partners. I'm sure you've seen most of these press releases come out as we're ready. We're always working in new projects like this as we are onboarding new partners. And finally, I want to let people know that we do reach out to, let's say, the main Bitcoin services that are out there, like Kraken. We check in with exchanges and things like that. Not everyone is ready to integrate Dash at this phase, just because they are all startup businesses that have different priorities and different resources and needs. But we are actively reaching out, and we feel a change in the market in which a lot of these services are becoming more blockchain agnostic, which I think is really good for the space overall. And also more and more opportunities are opening for Dash that we're working on. So we do hear you. We do know, contacting traditional Bitcoin services, it's part of the strategy, but it's not the only strategy that we are trying to execute, because we need to also try to create and support new independent services that are coming online that are more Dash focused. So we will continue to reach out, but we will also continue to support Dash specific projects that are coming online. And finally, there's two things that are important. In the process of creating the conditions for more businesses to adopt Dash, we're trying to hit the obstacles that we feel are let's say the hidden obstacles in the process of adoption. One of them is compliance, and it's something that has been discussed on the network. All we want as Dash, as the Dash team or the Dash network, is to facilitate the integration of new services. And one of the obstacles, or one of the, let's say, the questions we've been hearing from potential partners is about legal uncertainties surrounding new cryptocurrencies beyond Bitcoin. So we're trying to hit those issues by trying to provide guidance and seeking legal opinions on these sort of things. So the result of those efforts should be more clarity and should put at ease the questions new investors and businesses have when they are considering integrating Dash, and that's why we're doing that. Finally, our strategy is also going to be adopted to Evolution. And the great difference for Evolution is that right now, if a business wants to integrate Dash, they need to implement their own hot wallets, their own broker softwares, or different backend tools that are needed. When we get to Evolution, it should be easier for a lot of businesses, depending on what they do, to integrate Dash through our API. So once we are closer to launch on the API, on the Evolution software, our strategy is going to shift a little bit to also put some efforts into onboarding people through the API. So that's going to be once the API is out, which is still a few months out. So that Evan and the development team can give a better update on that part. So yeah, that's the general status update, and I'm looking forward to the Q&A session.
All right. Thanks, Daniel. So now we'll spend a few minutes covering marketing and communication. Philip, can you walk us through? Philip, we can't hear you if you're on. All right, I'm going to go ahead and skip marketing and communication. We'll go ahead to Robert. We'll try again in a moment. And Robert, if Philip can't join, maybe you could cover the marketing and communication section as well.
Yeah, sure, with pleasure.
All right.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Robert Więcka, and I'm one of the people responsible for project organization matters in our project. Let me quickly introduce the team that is working on this area. First of all, Ryan Taylor is our finance manager, as he already introduced himself. Myself, together with Balu and Ahmed, we are working on project management matters, but also on the process-related tasks and basically everything what is necessary to support the entire organization and the other guys in their work. For the year 2016, we have defined 4 major goals for us in the area of project organization. First of them was improvements in communication and processes. We've seen also a need to define project management processes and to manage internal projects and initiatives. We wanted to refine the internal structure of the DashCore team, and we started to coordinate our teams in more professional and let's say industry-like manner. And we've also decided to introduce and wanted to introduce a financial planning process to the DashCore activities and just to report the status of finances to our community. Next slide, please.
Yeah, hold on. There we go.
I'm really happy that during the last quarter we have managed to expand our team. Balu and Ahmed joined the team last month. It's in September. Balu is the person who was working with us a long time ago, but due to some personal matters, he decided to step out, but he rejoined recently and supporting us with project management and also processes related matters. Ahmed is a new person. He's an ITIL expert, and at the moment he's working on the definition or simplification of our processes like release management, deployment management, crisis management, something that is really needed and something that we are really looking forward to have in our organization. We have also, thanks to Ryan and his new software called QuickBooks, we have also introduced transparent finance management process. Finances are reported on monthly basis, and you can check them on the forum. Ryan publishes a report every month, and the numbers there are pretty well described and clarified. We have also, during the third quarter of 2016, we have coordinated 20 projects. Some of them are finished, like the JAX project. Some of them are still in progress, and many of them we are going to successfully close during the next quarter. Regular monthly reporting and regular project updates is something what we are doing also to report the status of our core team internal projects and activities. We have also supported the team and our speakers in preparations to conferences by creation of presentation materials, hangouts, and providing feedback and support during the preparation process. During the last quarter, as Daniel already mentioned, we have launched 2 legal programs where we are seeking legal opinions about first to figure out masternode legal obligation and get opinion on the masternode standpoint from the legal perspective. And the second program is to dedicated to launch the ATM program that allows community members to have their own ATMs machine without extensive legal related activities. So the goal of the program is to create a legal framework that makes the ATM ownership as simple as possible.
All right.
Also, we've been working on the project management framework that will be used in our activities in the future. Hopefully, during the development on the software in version 12.2, we will be able to adopt some of the principles of this program into the governance framework of our system. What we can see as improvement areas in this in our area of responsibility is definitely long-term planning. We would like to focus on the planning in a longer perspective than a year, both from financial and organizational and business perspective. We want to have a coordinated business development together with project management and merchants in order to make the integration of Dash much easier and much more structured. And we would like to define supporting processes for our development teams. So definitely what we are going to do is the strategic planning for the year 2017, as well as definition of the robust team structure. So far, we didn't have the support teams. We have fantastic developers, and they are working on many projects, but also the outcome of these projects are the working systems and integrations, and we have to create a support team that will provide the support services and maintenance to these systems and will help our partners smoothly integrate and work with Dash. We would like to also increase the number of quality assurance resources working on with the developers. This is definitely something we would like to work in the next quarter. As Daniel mentioned, we will be working on formal Dash integration process and also on the contracting framework to make it easier and very clear how to engage with Dash. As mentioned previously, I will be working on the first release of the project management framework, and I'm really happy to observe that some of the community members already started a discussion on the forum about this, and I will be more than happy to work with them on the definition, on the final definition of this framework. I will incorporate their feedback, and I hope together we will create something very valuable for the network. We will continue to support marketing and PR efforts for our organization, and also ATM compliance program will be our area of focus for the next quarter. Okay, so thank you very much. I hand it over to you, Ryan.
Sure. Philip, should we flip back to marketing and communication? Are you able to hear us or resolve the connection issue? All right. It sounds like we might need to just cover this. So maybe what I'll do is just share a couple perspectives that I have on the marketing and communication space, and Robert, maybe you can walk us through some of the details. But marketing and communications is an area that I think large components of it are pretty opaque for a lot of community members. If you don't speak Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, or Russian, you simply don't see the volume of work that goes into promoting Dash and translating massive amounts of material around the globe. And so I think getting an update here is an area that it could benefit a lot of people to just see all of the different activity that's going on. But Robert, do you want to walk through these two slides?
Okay, so I don't work directly with all of these people, but rather support Philip and the guys indirectly. But definitely we have a bigger and bigger team working on the marketing and translation and social media space. So the goals from the last roadmap defined for the 2016 were to participate in TNBC, the North American Bitcoin conference in Miami, and to participate as many events and conferences as possible. We were going to conduct a formal public relationship campaign and also increase media presence, the presence of Dash in media. What was done during the last quarter, and Philip made a tremendous job on this, those were newsletters and social media daily updates shared with our community, with our partners, and with our customers. We have a big outreach in different parts of the globe, with the great focus on China, Russia, and Brazil, and Portugal, as far as I know. We have our team working with Philip has translated a number of videos and wiki pages in very different languages, but major focus are those languages like Chinese, Russian, Portuguese, and Spanish. We have also supported as a team PR agencies working with Dash. Those were Vanbex and Waxman PR currently working with us. We have been also participating 3 quite big events. It was DTNE conference, Atlanta Bitcoin Meetup, and Warsaw Block Meetup during the third quarter. What Philip defined as areas of improvement in this space are definitely extended marketing. We are doing quite great, but we can always do better, let's say. And also what we are going to be focused on are publications outside of the crypto space. We definitely want to go to the mainstream and show what Dash is and explain Dash advantages. So next steps in the area of marketing and communication will be continuation of our wiki translation into top languages. Also, we have just launched French wiki page, and this will be translated in the nearest future. Philip is going to support the development team in launch of the new Dash.org web page in as many languages as possible. We will go to the conferences in the next quarter. One is already planned, and Evan is preparing himself for this. We hope that we will participate more events also in coming months.
All right. And one of the things that I would add to this is we did sign a couple of promotion agreements in China and continued our promotion agreement with Ideas Radicalis. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I know I'm not, in fact, in Brazil, a YouTube channel that receives a great deal of traffic. And the other promotion is in China. It's with cybtc.com, and they are actively promoting Dash and educating Chinese users on the benefits of Dash, etc. So those are a couple of other activities that I didn't see on this list. All right, so in terms of, we seem to be missing the finance slides. I will come back to that in a moment. What I'm going to do, is skip ahead to the KPIs, and then I'll try and pull up a version of the financials that I had sent over earlier. Apologize for the slip up here. So in terms of key performance indicators, In terms of our market performance, Dash showed considerable strength throughout the quarter across a wide range of metrics. And first of all, Dash's market cap grew 75% quarter on quarter and nearly 500% year on year. We exited the quarter claiming about 0.2% of the digital currency market space. Price volatility continued to remain near historic lows. And it's worth pointing out that Bitcoin's average volatility is currently around 2.4% on a daily basis, which we actually matched in Q2 of this year for the first time. And so, remaining near those historic lows is quite strong. And then exchange trading volume continued to accelerate in the quarter as well. We're up more than 800% year on year and 120% since the previous quarter. Transaction fees also ticked up slightly from the previous quarter and are hovering near highs as well. On other key performance indicators, we also saw a return to strong gains in usage metrics during the quarter. We did see a downturn in some of these metrics in Q2, but they seem to correlate with the reduction in GPU mining that started to impact our network towards the end of Q1 and accelerated into Q2. As ASICs took over GPU mining, large mining pool transactions involving hundreds of addresses became less common, which negatively impacted those numbers during Q2. And now that that effect has dissipated, we were encouraged to see usage metrics return to growth. Total payment volume continued to ramp up since last year, and it now stands at 120 million during the quarter. Network congestion remains extremely low, obviously, and our hash rate continued to break records throughout the quarter as ASICs continued to deploy on the network. So network health is very strong. We also recently started tracking social media subscription growth, and we saw substantial gains there as well, particularly in our YouTube subscribers, which more than doubled. And what I will do now is...
Ryan, I believe you have those slides after the charts.
Oh, I do. Okay, perfect. There we go. All right. So at this point, I'll walk you through the quarter's financial highlights. One of the first priorities I set when I joined the team full-time this spring was to improve the financial planning process within the core team and to ensure that our financial records were auditable and backed by adequate documentation. And with the cooperation and support of the core team, we made significant progress towards a more mature process. Previously, the team was submitting proposals on an ad hoc reactive basis. Oftentimes, we needed team members to incur expenses personally prior to obtaining funding, which put them at personal risk of not being reimbursed. And which projects received funding depended more on the timing of a proposal and available budget than on the importance, urgency, or impact that proposal could have. And as a consequence, low priority needs were sometimes funded at the expense of more critical ones, or budgets went unused because core team members assumed the budget would lack capacity for their needs by the time the budget was ready to go. And so starting in May, we began a process that shifted the core team financial planning from very reactive to proactive. And the benefits have manifested themselves in many ways. First of all, by anticipating our needs and prioritizing them, we're getting far more mileage out of the available budget than before, and funding is being focused in areas that can have the most impact. In addition, we've improved our financial condition and strength, which enables us to act much more quickly when business development, talent acquisition, or marketing opportunities present themselves. We're now in a position to act much more nimbly as a result. This quarter also marks the first time we're tracking income, expenses, and balance sheet financials in a fully auditable manner, and I'm happy to provide you with the first accounting of our financial position. We decided to conduct our accounting in US dollars to provide a more stable picture of our financials. And as you can see here, assuming the print isn't too small, as I said, these slides will be published after the call. But the core team received a total of more than $155,000 in payments from Dash's proposal system during the quarter. That's based on the date that the proposals actually distributed. And in addition, we experienced substantial gains from our currency's appreciation throughout the quarter, which contributed an additional $30,000 in gains. You'll notice that uncategorized income and uncategorized expense rose on the income statement. Because our accounting package can't support currency conversions other than those involving the US dollar, which is designated as our accounting currency, that workaround is needed in order to facilitate any conversion of Dash to Bitcoin. What you're actually seeing there is uncategorized expense represents the sale of Dash, and uncategorized income represents the corresponding Bitcoin purchases. These trades were necessary for some Bitcoin payments during the quarter. Our largest expense during the quarter was for subcontractors, which included payments to more than 36 contractors, from developers to translators. Legal and professional fees consisted primarily of our retainer for Pillsbury Law, initial payments to our new PR firm, and graphics designers for both Evolution and conference presentation work. Promotional expenses consisted primarily of our sponsorship package at the upcoming Latin American Bitcoin and Blockchain Conference in Argentina, as well as marketing contracts in China and Brazil, and conference promotional material. Excluding currency and trading profits, the Dash core team accumulated approximately $41,000 in reserves during the quarter, which will provide the team with greater flexibility going forward. In fact, we've been able to skip funding requests within specific areas for the past 2 budget cycles to prioritize other needs, and we now have a substantial buffer against exchange rate risk, which ensures that we can meet our US dollar obligations with higher certainty going forward. Counting currency and trading gains, we exited the quarter with more than $72,000 hitting our balance sheet. And flipping to the next slide, oops. All right, so turning to the balance sheet, we now boast an incredibly strong position to continue signing business partnerships, expanding the team, shifting resources to full-time, and building out our infrastructure. Although we did have a number of large transactions pending at the end of the quarter, including our retainer payment to Cogent Law for the ATM compliance program, translator payments from the international outreach program, data center expenses, and travel expenses, those expenses were well covered by existing balances. And turning to Q3 highlights, I think in summary, Q3 was an amazing success. We achieved roughly the halfway mark towards an initial Evolution release. We grew both the team and our ecosystem with a number of new partners being announced during the quarter. We achieved significant press exposure, including some mainstream publications, and benefited from some, obviously pretty rapid price growth during the quarter. And so what I'd like to do, I'd like to take a moment to reflect on where the project is today and how far we've come. It's easy to forget that it was just Q3 of last year that we first introduced the budget system. Our initial month covered just 5 proposals, including some funding to supplement Evan's trip to Amsterdam for a Bitcoin meetup. I can't say everything we've undertaken over the last year has been a success, but overwhelmingly, we're in a better place than we were a year ago. 1 year ago, it would be unthinkable to onboard companies like Mycelium, SpectroCoin, Proton Mail, Shake, Wall of Coins, Living Room of Satoshi, Jax, or CoinFirm, let alone in sometimes exclusive deals next to Bitcoin. We've since proven that we can land substantial business partners with extraordinary regularity. A year ago, it would be equally unfathomable that we'd receive mainstream business coverage in publications like NASDAQ, Payments Week, and even Bitcoin Magazine, the belly of the beast. Yet we've since proven that we can land mainstream business publications with regularity as well. And a year ago, it was impossible to hire anyone. Evan was the only full-time resource on the project. We've since added 3 full-time developers, full-time business development, full-time finance, and full-time project management roles. In short, we're no longer in the amateur leagues. We're clearly entering a new phase of the project in which we should consider nothing outside of our reach. And this quarter has shown that from a financial standpoint, we can afford to begin biting off even more. With that in mind, let me turn the call back over to Evan. He'll share with you some high-level thinking on where we see the project evolving from here. Evan? Is he still on, Robert?
Can you guys hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Okay. So thank you, Ryan, for the update. The project is just entering a brand new phase, and we're referring to this as the pivot point. We went from a completely voluntary team that was basically ran out of a garage, more or less, to an international team where we can pretty much accomplish anything we put our minds to. And the point that we're pivoting off of is 12.1. And it's going to allow us to build the next generation of the software, which is going to have many different features that we've been waiting for to deliver evolution. What we're going to make is a much bigger and better framework for building on top of. This is the evolution framework, which is also going to offer us administration for our DAO. We are arguably the first ever decentralized autonomous organization to have a functional administrative system that's built on completely decentralized technology. And with 12.1, we're just getting the first nuts and bolts in place that will allow us to integrate features like milestones and project management so that we can distribute money in granular ways, watch it go through the system, and then track all of these things together with better statistics, better numbers, and allowing us to capture all of the data that we need. This is the vision of how to run a decentralized organization on the framework that we're making. And it's not just limited to a product like Evolution. This is a Turing complete system, which means that you can pretty much program it to do anything. And this is what we refer to as Sentinel. So Sentinel is a database that's going to allow us to store all of this information, and the 12.1, 12.2 phase is going to shift us into that new mode. The next thing that we're going to get shortly after that are we're going to acquire an office to roll out to a much more sophisticated model of in something that's a lot closer to what people are used to dealing with, would be more like a normal startup where you get seed funding, you get an office, you hire some developers. it took us about 3 years to get back to this point, but now we have the funding to do it. We have the team in place to do all of the work we need. And now we're just waiting for the right moment to go ahead and get the office and then start hiring and acquiring the talent, which is going to help us to move in a much more accelerated manner and expedite the process further of delivering evolution. As we do this, we're expecting that investors will see the value in the product that we're making. Our market cap will grow, and then we will even have more money for hiring more people and expediting it further. So we're attempting to build a snowball, if you were. And as it begins rolling, we will continue to pile on resources to make it go faster. So we're looking at a full evolution release about 5 years from the date of the original invention of Dash, which was called, Xcoin at the time. And that's about a normal phase for a startup to get its first product. So we're probably, just a few months from 12.1 by the very first of the year, hopefully a lot sooner than that. 6 to 12 months from the release after that, which includes some of these features for integrating the DAO administration, and then alpha and then beta shortly after that. So that's what's on the horizon, and we're super excited about it. And the plans are all coming together, and we're actually starting to see how to exactly do this and when and where to do it. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Evan. And so at this point, this concludes the prepared portion of the call. And so we'd like to begin the question and answer session. But before we do that, I'd like to point out that the next quarterly call will cover both Q4 and a review of the full year 2016. That call will most likely occur in late January or early February. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Robert to remind everyone of the process we'll follow for the Q&A session.
Thank you very much, Ryan. So I have gathered a number of questions from the community members on the forum. And if, in case you have any other questions, please type them on the chat. I will ask them to the relevant people, and we'll try to answer the questions during the Q&A session, as we have still some time to do this. So let's move on to the first question then. The question asked by the community member BH Kien: how many people are there in the core team and evolution team? I think I can answer this question because I did some math last days and was counting the people and was working on the structure. So currently we have 30 people working in the development team and many volunteers helping our development team. So overall there are around 100 people in the development Slack. However, I think that we have around 70 active people working on the Dash development. From the evolution perspective, we have 14 developers working on development, plus multiple supporting functions like PMs, designers, writers, translators, and we are still expanding this team. So I guess that those numbers are pretty impressive. And we are looking like a very professional team working on the very professional product. The second question is from the same community member, and the question is there any plan to grow number of developers? So definitely yes, as you've heard from Evan, we are going to expand the team, and we are constantly searching and recruiting new people. In October, we have found 2 new developers, and they have joined the Evolution backend development team, and we are continuing we continue our efforts in this area. So definitely, we are expanding the team.
Evan, maybe you can comment on kind of the nature of the types of developers you'd like to onboard and the arrangements that you'd like to see, because I know that sometimes working in different time zones across the same project with people that are volunteering with evenings and weekends doesn't always lead to the fastest development cycle.
What we're looking for is essentially some core developers. So those people would have extensive C++ knowledge. The two that do most of the work right now are Eugene and Tim. And Tim has 18 years of C++ experience, and Eugene has about 10. So we would need similarly talented people for this new office that we're looking to start. Beyond that, Evolution itself is a platform with many technologies. And so we would need people for the front ends, for the back end software, for mobile wallets. It literally is all of the various technologies. So it's probably about half and half. We're talking like the main architecture for the back end is Node. So if you know Node.js, it might be a good fit if someone listening is interested. And then a lot of this requires front-end skills for CSS and things like that. And if Qt experience is also extremely useful for the main wallet. So those are the main technologies.
Thank you, Evan. Another question is from the same community member. Is there any plan to reduce delay in releasing new version? Evan, do you want to take that one too?
The 12.1, we're currently in the actual last stage of testing Superblock system, which is going on right now. After that works, we're ready to release. But we need to make sure that we're not going to damage the network by releasing it. So we're being very, very careful and prudent about the testing process that we're going through. And beyond that, no delay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next question is from Halso. And actually, he has asked the number of questions in several areas. First two questions are from project management area. So first question, do you think recent delays with 12.1 could have been mitigated by a greater focus on project management? For example, should the fake masternode issue been identified as a risk earlier? So since it's a project management, maybe I'll try to answer first, and then you can conclude, Evan. So I think that the risk with fake masternodes was identified much earlier by Holger. However, it was not affecting mainnet, so it was not treated as an extremely critical risk. So the solution to this issue exists already and will be available, but theoretically useless on the mainnet. And it could be identified by project management efforts, but I believe that it was identified by technical leaders early enough to reduce this risk and eliminate the issue. Do you want to add something, Evan?
Yeah. I don't believe it would have saved us any time, because if it was identified, we would have had to have made the proof of service implementation, which took weeks. The proof of service implementation that we have running currently is quite sophisticated. It's called Watchdog. So, I mean, we would have had to have done it either way. The nice thing about testnet and the way that things work is generally when we get attacked like this, it's a very good indication of what we needed to fix anyway. These are people that are essentially doing testing for us and directing us in the right direction, so that we we see things really early and that the software turns out much, much better. And this has been something that's ongoing in all of the different releases. So I'm actually pretty happy that it happened, and it's made the software much, much more robust.
Thank you, Evan. Next question is related actually to last interview of Evan about evolution and lack of competitors. Is the roadmap still relevant? Will a new project timeline be released?
The roadmap is still relevant, but it's wrong. It's I should update it. What was the other part of the question?
Will a new project timeline be released?
Yeah, so we should probably work on one. I think that's actually a few months old, and we've combined some elements of the different releases because it made more sense to do it this way to expedite the process of releasing evolution in the longer term. And that's not reflected in those documents, so we should definitely do that.
Okay, thank you, Evan. Next question from the same community member, also. Evan previously alluded to a privacy solution some time ago that does not involve masternodes. When will details of this solution be released? Can you describe the details?
It rings a bell, but I don't remember what I was talking about specifically. I don't remember every idea that I've had. There are a lot of them.
Okay, so maybe let's follow up with this question after the call and try to answer the question on the forum, okay? Mm-hmm. Next question is, are the core team considering any other privacy solution that do not involve mixing coins?
So there's a few different privacy implementations that we're interested in. I'm quite interested in ring signatures for masternode voting. I don't think they make a whole lot of sense to have in a ledger to protect assets and fungibility in that way, but for a voting process to blind who is voting for what, they are extremely useful, and that would make our voting process a lot easier to deal with for the masternode operators, so that they could vote whatever they feel is necessary without having to possibly be identified and to ask or answer questions without them wanting to. That should be a choice of if they want to or not. And having some sort of privacy in the governance itself allows us to do that and give them a little bit more flexibility.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Next question is related to the previous one and also probably goes to Evan. If there are continued problems with mixing, at what point do we stop and pursue a different privacy solution?
The mixing technology on testnet is so much improved over what's on 12.0. It's a completely new rewrite. There's been a lot of effort that's went into it, and we don't see any real problems with the mixing on testnet currently. Another thing that is worth mentioning is the core protocol, the core mixing protocol for the network is mainly used for fungibility, and it's okay if it's slow. We want to just erase history of the coins every once in a while so that you can't follow transactional history throughout the ledger. But that doesn't mean that evolution can't have a quicker, lighter, better, privacy-centric implementation that completely stands next to the old one. And we're planning this. The way that it works, it seems like it'll take just a few seconds to mix. It'll be a one-off type thing where you move money from a cash account into a private account. from a public account into a cash account, and then you can spend at will. So we're definitely working on that. We're looking to have one really strong mixing protocol that's perfectly decentralized for the fungibility sake of the currency, and one for more the privacy part of it, because the implementations will serve the needs of those differently, and we want to provide the best service possible for both.
Thanks, Evan. Sounds really exciting. Another question is also from the same community member, Halso, and probably is addressed to Ryan. So Ryan previously talked about the introduction of a Dash Vault account. When will these accounts be introduced? Will these accounts also double as the interest-bearing accounts?
Well, I'm probably not the best person to answer it.
Yeah.
Maybe Evan will be
Maybe
once again
Evan.
because it is technical. But yeah, I believe that the intent is to introduce them as part of Evolution. Vault accounts, for those not familiar with them, are accounts where an outgoing transaction out of one of those addresses does not, it remains reversible for a period of time, and that helps with long-term storage, particularly of large amounts, and protects them against potential hackers. So for example, if a hacker were to get into a Vault account and access those private keys and send the money somewhere, an email or something or some kind of notification would go to the user that someone is moving their funds, and they would have the option to go in and cancel within, say, 24 or 48 hours. My understanding is that the Vault account functionality has actually been built for the Bitcoin protocol. It's just very difficult to use. And so I think the idea behind Evolution is make those account types easy to set and easy to use. And then in conjunction with the rest of Evolution's functionality, allow things like a notification to go to the user should anything happen. But by having Vault accounts, you also reduce the incentive for a hacker to even try, because most of your funds are locked away in a Vault account and can't be accessed without, without the consent of the user, essentially. It completely removes the incentive to try to attack in the first place. And so we think that it's an important set of functionality to include in a coin. And Evan, maybe you can talk more about when we might be able to expect it and how it would work.
Vault accounts would be something that's much later. That would be a feature in after beta for sure.
Okay.
They also aren't the same thing as the interest-bearing accounts, which would come probably sooner than that. The interest-bearing account idea is where you can take part in a piece of a masternode and earn some form of compensation, usually like something like a dividend, and it would come back into your account, but you wouldn't actually have to run the actual hardware. So it's a little bit different. The Vault accounts would be incredibly useful for us, though. We're looking into different functionalities like that, not that specifically, though, just yet.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Evan. The next question is a general question about communication. Legitimate questions and queries are often left unanswered on the forum. Is it possible to develop a set of agreed positions that can then be used to respond to community members?
Well, I can share my perspective on it. I think that community communication with investors, with users, with masternode owners, it's very important. And it comes in many forms. The forum is one channel, and it has many advantages and disadvantages. One of the advantages is, it allows an exchange of ideas to be recorded and accessible for folks to continue to reference. I think as far as communicating with the core team goes, it does have some attributes that make it very difficult for us to keep up with it. It doesn't scale very well. It's one-to-one communication generally. But I will say this, if someone tags my name associated with a post, I do attempt to answer questions if I know the answer. But I think as the project grows, it's just not feasible for particularly the project leadership team to engage in a one-on-one basis, simply because I literally could spend 80% of my time on Slack and the forums interacting with people, but we wouldn't get much work done. And so I think we'll by necessity need to shift some of our communication towards channels like this one that allow people to have their questions answered. It's very much a one-to-many type of communication tool that allows us to get a lot of information out to a lot of people very quickly without a great deal of overhead on our time. So we're trying to be mindful about how we spend our time, and how we can most effectively communicate with the community. But that said, I certainly try my best, and I'm sure everyone else here on the call does as well, to respond, particularly when my name is attached to something. When a post gets buried, a question isn't posed to anyone in particular and is buried on page 3 of a certain thread, the expectation I don't think can be that we're going to necessarily see it and respond to it, because we are busy and we're working on many different things. So I think, hopefully opportunities like this one will allow people to have the set of information they feel they need, and the ability to ask questions without, taking away from the team's time and ability to go and execute our plans. I don't know if anybody has thoughts on the forum posts.
No? Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you very much, Ryan, for the answer. I strongly, from my perspective, from my point of view, I strongly encourage all of the community members to ask the questions during these calls. We will do our best to organize the call similar to this one every quarter, so everyone can be heard and every question will be answered. The last question on my list is from the same community member also, and it's related to Dash Foundation. The question is, I previously proposed a legal option for Masternode selecting a foundation board. In example, the roles and responsibilities of foundation members are amended to include a new duty of electing a board, which is reflective of a popular Masternode vote. Members become effective delegates for the purposes of electing the board. Has this been given any consideration? So our legal advisor and legal team member is absent today, but he shared the response. It's from Fernando. So let me read the response, and if anyone else would like to add something to this, feel free to do it after I read the response. So regarding that specific proposal, although the board is legally entitled to amend the bylaws, I think we should not do it without consulting the members if that change is a major one that affects them. This one would take out their freedom to vote and turn them into more proxies, so I don't think they would approve. I'm not even sure that the Arizona law that regulates non-profit permits that. Please don't forget that the foundation doesn't control the protocol or network in any way. At the moment, it is just a legal entity that helps the Dash project because that is its stated purpose by the bylaws. It has a very limited role and power, and it is governed by its members. In any case, we have considered and keep doing it different ways to eventually engage masternodes with the foundation because they are a major part of the Dash ecosystem. The most attractive option would be to create a new class of members for masternodes and have the vote directly, but the legal hurdles are big because in order to have tax-exempt status, we need to have a list of members with name and address. In the meantime, probably the most realistic approach would be to have the board put certain things to a vote by masternodes. We could even amend the bylaws for this to be required in certain cases. However, we can't forget that masternodes are just one part of the ecosystem. They have a very important role and usually represent the network quite well. They are not the only actors, and the foundation needs to take into account other parts of the network too in order to fulfill its purpose. So this was the answers from Fernando. Thanks, Fernando, by the way. Does anyone else want to add something to this?
I mean, I'll add one quick thought. Yeah, I mean, we are brainstorming ideas all the time about governance and how we can better interact with the foundation, how the foundation can better support the network, how we can scale the proposal system, because if you imagine we're at Bitcoin scale and have 100 times the budget, I don't think anyone on the call could possibly evaluate that number of proposals. And so we are thinking about how this might need to evolve over the coming couple of years, and how all of this could most effectively deliver, the network that we all envision. And I think there will be some necessary changes, and we'll just have to deal with those things as the network continues to grow. And growth is a good thing. It just comes with many growing pains. So, yeah, I do think that proposals like the one that they put forward are certainly on the consideration list.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. So we have also two questions on the chat. First question is from the community member De Facto. Hi, there are still some masternode stability issues. There are still even in 12.0.60. There are well described on GitHub in issues, but still not resolved. Any plans to increase priority on fixing those problems? They have impact on payments, etc.
I'm not entirely sure which issue they're alluding to. I'm unaware of any issues with payments that still need to get resolved. Another thing to point out is that the payment protocol is actually switching from 12.0 to 12.1 into a completely different implementation anyway. So yeah, I don't think there's anything there to resolve. But if there's more information, feel free to email me and I'll get back to you.
So maybe De Facto, if you can elaborate a little bit more, feel free to present what the issue is, and Evan try to respond. You have your voice.
In the meantime, maybe we can move on to the next question, and hopefully they can provide more detail.
Yeah, thanks. Another question is from Pyle. When the limited key pool problem will be solved? People keep reporting losing coins with mixing. New addresses not covered by old backup. I think that's urgent. Newcomers don't even know about this issue and can run into big trouble anytime.
The key pool issue is a really old one. The core client in general, the Bitcoin technology in general, uses completely random key pools. The way to fix it would be to use some sort of seed where we make the key pool from that seed, and it's completely deterministic. We've talked about actually implementing that, but with other priorities in 12.1, that got moved back a little bit. Especially the other thing to keep in mind is that when we switch over to Evolution, 99.9% of everybody that wants privacy will be using this other implementation, which will be seeded from a source like I'm describing, so that there won't be the possibility of coin loss anymore in the same way. And so, you know, it's a temporary issue. We could resolve it in the core protocol now, but I don't think it's worth the effort.
Okay, thanks, Evan.
Mm-hmm.
Those were all questions from my list. So thank you very much for your attention and for answers. Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, just in conclusion, I want to thank everyone that joined the call for listening, and would thank anyone else who is watching this as a recording for you know, allowing us to share our point of view on where the project is and where we're headed, and also for the great questions. We'd love to hear your feedback, as I said earlier, about the call and how we might be able to structure this in a more effective way, but we certainly hope that you found it useful and informative and worthwhile. And so we'll look forward to the next quarterly call and incorporating whatever feedback we think can help make this even better next time. So thanks again, and we'll see you in 3 months, and I'm sure we'll interact online and through other means in the meantime. So have a great rest of the day.
Thank you very much, everyone.